Here we go. Rapid React live post-game episode. Locked on 49ers. 49ers dominating the Carolina Panthers on the road 37-15. Key plays, key players, our takeaways from this game. And, of course, we'll give out some game balls from Week 5 with this 49ers victory. Coming up right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you on this Rapid React episode. Our immediate thoughts going live here post 49ers Week 5 victory 37-15 over the Carolina Panthers. Thanks for making us your first listen every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is what we do. And today's episode of Locked On 49ers is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On. Croc, I think it was the very last thing you said on this podcast Friday as we were leaving the Keys to Victory episode. You said the 49ers were about to whoop them in Carolina, and that they did.
That looked like the 49ers that I've expected to see. And, we talked about Jimmy Garoppolo and kind of warming up, and maybe he just has to get, reacclimated to the team, to the rhythm of the offense and everything. But it looked good today. It looked really good. Or Sunday afternoon, whenever you're listening to this.
Right. Yeah. And shout out to all those that didn't make the live episode Sunday afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world, and just listen on Monday morning, maybe on your way to work or something like that. What we saw, too, in this game was what I thought we were going to see. Remember Week 1 when the 49ers kind of rolled out to an early lead against the Bears? And it was like, Justin Fields couldn't do anything. Their offense wasn't moving at all. I was like, Niners about to blow them out right now. And It didn't end that way. It didn't happen that way. This was sort of what that was supposed to look like, right? Where they come out. I loved the game plan by Kyle Shanahan from jump, getting George Kittle heavily involved early on the first drive. They just ran down the field, put it in the end zone. And, of course, the defense did their part. 49ers didn't turn the ball. Well, actually, George Kittle did have that one fumble, which was pretty much the only hiccup, I think, on either side of the ball, it felt like, all day long. And, efficient offense. They were running the ball. Jimmy G was efficient throwing. Jimmy G's final totals here were 18 of 30 passing, 253 yards, 8.4 per completion, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, only sacked twice for a loss of 9 yards, 109 quarterback rating. I mean, that's exactly what you want to happen with the passing game on offense. And then, Jeff Wilson putting up 120 yards on the ground, averaging 7 yards per carry. With the way the 49ers defense is playing, I mean, that's a recipe for a victory every single week.
Yeah, that was really good, and you did talk about the one blemish. And I wanted to come on here, and I was really excited to not have to bring up any negativity. Of course, there's some injuries that we'll touch on, and obviously the George Kittle fumble, but it didn't hurt them, right? It didn't hurt them too much. The 49ers offense, I thought they did a solid job early on of moving the ball up and down the field. And when you get that pick 6 before halftime, I think that really changed the tide to where it kind of gave the 49ers some breathing room to where, look, you don't have to force anything, and you can continue to kind of pour it on the Panthers out there in Levi's East. Is that what we're going to call Carolina Stadium? Because it was all red in the bleachers.
Man, I don't think it matters where the 49ers play the Panthers, because remember at Levi's a couple years ago, I think this final score is 51 to something. And I mean, they just thumped them, and it's a completely different team. I think Christian McCaffrey might be the only same guy on the team from that one. But I mean, it was just
DJ Moore.
Yeah, DJ Moore was still around then, I guess. Was that his second year, maybe? I mean, it was just, the Rams lost. Like, the 49ers are in first place, and they might be in first place to stay, Croc, if they can play like this. The defense is good, and the defense is going to stay good, right? But the only question now, I think, and we got to talk about some of these things. We're going to get into the chat. We're going to give out some game balls here, talk a little bit more about the specifics of this game. But injuries is really the only bummer that you brought up there, Croc. And we'll have more information on these injuries tomorrow because we're going live right now. I'm sure Kyle during the press conference is going to tell more. So feel free in the chat to let us know what some of those details are on some of these players that were hurt during the game. Nick Bosa was walking around. He looked frustrated, but didn't look like a guy who was going to miss a lot of time. Were they just being cautious with some of these injuries? Jimmie Ward, I believe, was in for the first play of the game in the slot, right?
Yeah.
And then was gone. So was he going to play slot all game, I wonder? Or were they doing just like a 3 safety look there? And then hurt his hand, I think, on the first play, and then he was out of there.
I think it was just a 3 safety look.
Okay.
I don't know if it was just him in the nickel, but I was curious to, note that same thing so we could talk about it on the podcast. And I looked, the next snap in the nickel, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, it's Diamador Lenore out there. And I'm like, wait, where's Jimmie Ward? And he just wasn't on the field. And I thought, well, maybe they're just kind of easing him into the situation. But no, man, he's hurt his hand. So that's definitely tough because I was really excited to see what it looked like, a 3 safety look or just a defense in general with Jimmie Ward back.
And the other injury was at the very end of the game, Emmanuel Moseley, who had one of the biggest plays in that game in the pick 6. He looked like it was an ankle, a foot, a knee, something like that. It looked like his leg was flopping around a little bit odd. I did not like that at the end of the game, making big plays. I mean, the secondary, the linebackers, the defensive line, I mean, they're just coming into play. And how well the defensive line is playing, missing 2 big-time players, right? 2 first-round guys in Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw haven't been in there. And they haven't skipped a beat. Like, I haven't noticed a different team since they've been out.
There was one play. I mean, early on, too, it was really weird because we talk about the play Jimmie Ward was in. And somehow, some way, I don't know how, but Christian McCaffrey got like 8 or 9 yards on that one play. But, I mean, they were in there. They penetrated so quick. Everybody, I felt like, I'm like, man, how did McCaffrey get through there? And I think that was most of the game where guys were just penetrating. They're in the backfield. And I feel like when McCaffrey gets the ball, it's like they're looking at him in his eyes. I was like, man, this is a fast and tenacious defense that people are going to have to deal with. And like you said, no Armstead, no Kinlaw, but other guys filled in. I mean, obviously you have Givens. I don't even know who 55 is. I remember someone bringing him up to me before. But
that's veteran
55?
Akeem Spence, I believe. Akeem Spence.
Yeah, Spence. And I know he's been on like 7, 8 teams. So this is a guy that has traveled around. But, when you can find those guys and just figure out a very specific role. Like, look, Spence, whatever you are drafted to be, you don't have to be that with the 49ers. Just be a solid depth piece, and we're going to put you into this very specific role. And the more guys you can do that have that type of ability, the better this defense is going to be. And they're going to need it because, like you said, there's been a lot of guys go down on that defensive side of the ball.
There was one play, a short yardage run where Emmanuel, who's a big defensive end, was in there on the interior, and he got moved 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. And it's like, that's one place the 49ers, I think that's why they brought in someone like Akeem Spence. That's one place they're lacking. Even Javon Kinlaw is not really built to be that nose tackle. I think the 49ers defense does in some ways miss DJ Jones. It hasn't been a problem at all. They're so fast and they're so good penetrating, but I think nose tackle, just to make sure, like you're kind of picking nits here a little bit, looking for a hole in the 49ers defense. Maybe a true nose tackle would be something if you're looking to add at the deadline. But man, really, there's so little margin for error for opposing defenses or for opposing offenses against the 49ers defense. And Baker Mayfield wasn't up for the challenge. He looked at Baker Mayfield, like, I don't want to say he's a front runner or anything like that, but he was straight up beaten, right? He knew it was over. You could see it in his face. He had no fight.
He knew what time it was. And I felt like he figured that out right from the jump. And he's like, oh, man, they are even faster in person. They're flying around. I just love watching Fred Warner play, just the tenacity he plays with, finishing tackles. He had a tackle for loss, and he was like backing up and bumped into Baker Mayfield. And I just knew how Baker Mayfield felt in that moment where it's just like, gosh, they're everywhere. Like, they've been bumping into me after plays, But I think the attitude that they've taken on, and this is continued. I mean, it's not the first time they've played like this, right? I mean, we saw this with Robert Saleh, and they had that mindset, and then now you see them with D'Amico Ryans. So it's just been exciting to see how they can kind of carry that over from coach to coach, season to season, and still play with that same type of tenacity.
All right. More on this 49ers victory, 37-15 over the Carolina Panthers. We'll give out some game balls, get into the chat a little bit after this dominating performance by the San Francisco 49ers on the road in week 5. Our friends at Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. Maybe you want to get involved in maybe you're this is what happens a lot, and in the Peacock and Williamson fantasy league, by the way. And come on, you got to subscribe to Peacock and Williamson. I drafted a terrible team. I knew it around the 4th round. I was like, this is not a good football team that I'm drafting right now. This is bad. So I'm trying to climb the ladder out of the cellar. I don't know if it's going to happen, but if you have leagues like that where you're just doomed, daily fantasy is the way to go. You can have fun every single day, every single week, even if your fantasy team is out of it. And Prize Picks is super fun and super easy. All you do is you pick 2 to 5 players. If they will score more or less than their Prize Pick projections, then you win. It's that easy. You can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. You're not playing a pool of sharks out there in the fantasy world. It's just you against those projections. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport too, not just NFL football, college football, any college sports, NBA, MLB, PGA, NHL, you name it. You can find it at Prize Picks, even disc golf, boxing, MMA, cricket. So have yourself some fun any day, any sport that is happening. You can get in on it with Prize Picks. Just pick if you go over or score more or less than those Prize Pick projections. And a lot of 49ers. If you picked Tevin Coleman to score more than his whatever projected rushing yards were, you might be able to make yourself a little bit of money. Entries are easy, can be made in 60 seconds or less, safe and fast withdrawals, and Prize Picks is currently operational in over 30 states, including Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50 more to play with. Don't forget, enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Make sure you check out NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL. Locked On's local experts give you the inside scoop on the 5 biggest games of the NFL weekend, including Sunday and Monday Night Football, plus betting advice from the field's leading experts, BetOnline. Follow NFL Key Predictions every Friday on Locked On NFL, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Croc. Jeremy says, Crocker challenged the offense to step up, and they did their part today. They did their party. They did kind of party a little bit today, Jeremy. I think that was a typo, but yeah, you're right. Croc was on it. Everything Croc said in the pregame is what happened on Sunday.
Yeah, but I think what I was saying was a lot of people want to see, right? You want to see the offense come out, not be as clunky. I thought they moved the ball well right away. You want to see the 49ers be efficient on third down. They did that. You want to see the offense be able to establish a run game. They did that out the gate. And get George Kittle involved, because I just haven't understood why the lack of touches, why the lack of really putting a point of emphasis on getting him the ball early on. Like, you can scheme him open just like you do anyone else. And everyone talks about, you got to leave him in to block. Like, no, you can get him the ball in space. And I thought they did a terrific job of that. Even in some really tight windows, I thought Jimmy G did a really good job of kind of squeezing some passes in there and just giving him an opportunity, where it was underneath or whether it was down the field. We saw a couple downfield shots, and I thought that was exciting to see as well. But George Kittle, the downfield shot, it was contested. And you put it up to your guy, hey, he's one of the best tight ends in the NFL. Make a play. And he did that. And I just continue to give him those type of opportunities. I thought that was really exciting to see, especially early on in the game.
How about the throw, Jimmy getting hit downfield to Tevin Coleman, and then the play Tevin Coleman made on the ball? That's one of the better throws I've seen from Jimmy G, letting it go, letting it fly a little bit. He's playing loose. He was playing confident on Sunday. I think it was really important for the 49ers season to see him play like that.
I had tweeted out that Tevin Coleman, I feel like when he has to play the Panthers, he turns into like Marshall Faulk, right? Now he's like an amazing pass catcher. He's an amazing running back. He's making guys miss in space. He's scoring multiple touchdowns. That was really cool to see, especially that downfield play. Again, when you take shots, when you give guys opportunities, you see who's going to make the play for you. George Kittle did it. And, wow, a random guy, Tevin Coleman, I don't want to say a random guy, but because he's been around. But, just you going into the game, you're not thinking Tevin Coleman, he's going to make multiple big plays in this game, but he did. And you get that type of involvement from some of those guys, the others. I think that is a recipe for success.
Tevin Coleman, fresh off the Jets roster to the 49ers roster, 8 carries for 23 yards and a touchdown. He had 3 catches for 44 yards and another score. So, who had the over on Tevin Coleman touchdowns in this game? That's kind of crazy. And clearly, undrafted rookie Jordan Mason, there's something going on there where they don't trust him to just throw Tevin Coleman right in there. And they weren't using any other running backs until Tevin Coleman showed up on the roster other than Jeff Wilson. So that's pretty telling right there. And you can drop Jordan Mason off of your fantasy teams as a stash for right now. Tevin Coleman, Kyle Shanahan loves him. He trusts him. And he was looking pretty good. He was looking better than I can remember him looking with the 49ers. Just fresh legs. Jeff Wilson broke off some big ones.
Again, he's playing against the Panthers. So he turns into Mars Falk in that game. As it pertains to Jordan Mason, a lot of times, especially with younger running backs, the reason why you don't see them on the field when everybody's like, man, the guy runs so well, it's probably because of pass protection. He might not be able to understand where he's picking up blitzes or, be on the same page with the quarterback. Because I know they have kind of an order of operations with how they pick up interior or rushers, where it's like you work inside out. And maybe there's certain things where he's just not doing and not grasping. And they're like, okay, we can't trust you in the actual game. We'll play everybody before you because of that. So there could be that element. Again, I don't know. That's just speculation on what I've seen or heard from a lot of younger running backs and why they're not quite counted on.
We got bad news here, Croc. According to Kyle Shanahan post-game, Emmanuel Moseley, probable torn ACL. Of course, awaiting MRI and all those things. We'll know more on Tuesday. But that's a huge bummer. That is something that hurts the 49ers because that means he's done for the year. And luckily for the 49ers, they're deep. They're deep at cornerback. You got the rookie Samuel Womack that could jump in. You've got Jason Verrett, who's coming off his own torn ACL from last year. Has been out since week 1 of 2021. I'd assume to see him jump in, but that's really unfortunate. That is a bummer after this game with how well they played. That game was in hand too late, and the Panthers just kind of chucking it up, and to just get that unlucky and kind of roll over the receiver and get your leg caught underneath him. That's terrible. That's terrible news for Emmanuel Moseley, who was going into a contract offseason too.
It's pretty frustrating, and it's unfortunate. I feel for him, and just not from just being on the field with the 49ers and what he means to this defense. You talked about earlier, the pick 6, and when that was a huge play because remember, let's say he doesn't get that pick 6, where are the 49ers when Panthers scored that touchdown that they did coming out of halftime, right? Like they scored, and then remember they ended up going for 2 and they didn't get it, but I mean that could have potentially been a 10-10 game. In a game where it felt like 49ers were really dominating. So, huge interception, and you take a guy like that. Now, I don't act like he just jumped, a pass and, looked like Deion Sanders. He looked like Deion on the return, but it wasn't severely overthrown. I don't even know what Baker Mayfield was doing or how he missed so badly. But that was more on Baker than, Mosley. But returning it to the crib, that was excellent, huge play. And you missed that, man. And I'm trying to envision kind of how the 49ers would go about it now. I did get a message from someone that said Jason Verrett was kind of waiting in the wings as kind of this security blanket, and now they might have to pull the blanket off of him and actually utilize him. You looked at some of the younger guys that had to play once Mosley went out. There was some combination of Womack and Deommodore Lenoir. I saw Deommodore Lenoir play on the outside while Womack went in the inside. We'll see if that continues to be that way because early on, I think in the Bronco game, when Travarius Ward went out the game, it was Womack on the outside. So I'm curious to who ends up being the slot, who ends up being the outside guy. That's something to look forward to. But young guys, and it is unfortunate, but it is a business, and I think people understand the injury element to these things. So it's got to be next man up. And like I said, 49ers have depth. They have some players that now have to step up and prove themselves. And having a good pass rush definitely will help these younger guys as well.
Yeah, and Ambry Thomas was in there at the end of the game as well, playing left corner. Can't forget about him, even though it's easy to, since he hasn't made much of an appearance in 2022. So they do have some depth luckily for the 49ers, and it's pretty clean for roster movement to put Moseley on IR. Then you bring Jason Verrett back and you don't lose a spot. So I'm sure that's going to happen in the next few days.
I think I saw Emory Thomas with a Revo on the helmet, and I was just like, oh, gosh, that's disgusting.
Can you show people what the helmet's supposed to look like, Croc?
Oh, okay, yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? So you really want to get the, this is my old college helmet, but, you know, you want to get the shut right there, you know what I'm saying, right here with the, some people call it the Dickerson, some people call it the Dion, you know, I call it, you know, whatever, but this is what I always wore pretty much all through college, wore in the NFL with the New York Jets, had same helmet, same style. So yeah, this is ideal. And you see some of the younger guys, Womack, Diamador Lenore, even Brandon Ayuk as well. They have a newer variation of this, so they wear the F7, and it's this style, but not this same one, but it's close. Like that's probably what I would wear if I were playing in today's day and age. So, and now who still wears this? Coleman still wears this. Tevin Coleman still wears this exact helmet.
Did Hufanga change to the shut?
No. He wears a Revo. Okay. And Ray McLeod. Ray McLeod wears this exact helmet as well. So and he's pretty drippy. So you know, there's some guys out there with it. But Emory Thomas, he used to wear it, and he just, I don't know. I saw him stand on the sideline looking all funny with the Revo on. So.
All right. We have news on Nick Bosa and Jimmie Ward injuries as well, and we'll give out some game balls from week 5 next. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor, delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite cookie dough chunk puffs. Have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks. And of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. And believe me when I tell you, that's what sends Built Bars off the charts, is they are covered in legitimately 100% real, dark, delicious chocolate, not some fake, funny, brown looking chocolatey flavored stuff. Real chocolate really makes you feel like you are getting a treat. And of course, cookie dough chunk puffs, as all Built Bars, are low in calorie and high in protein. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. A lot of Built Bars have only 130 to 150 calories with up to 19 grams of protein. Run to Built.com to snag a box for you and your family right now. It will be the perfect treat, whether it's cookie dough chunk puffs or whatever flavor you like of Built Bars. My favorite is the peanut butter. They've got tons of them. You can do the puffs. You can do the old standby Built Bars that I love so much. You are going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout, late night treat, or just grab a quick bite. Replace those bad for you snacks with Built Bars and do yourself a huge favor. Go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Again, get 15% off your next box of Built Bars. Use promo code LOCKED15. Okay, better news on Bosa and Jimmie Ward, Croc. Nick Bosa just a little bit tight. His groin was a little tight, is what Kyle Shanahan said. I'm sure that was precautionary. If he gets tight, you have a game well in hand, you take him off the field. And I think that's what's happening there with Nick Bosa. And then Jimmie Ward broke his hand on the very first play. So that is something that's probably going to take a while. I know when guys break their hands, they can put a big old wrap on it and roll out there with a club. So we'll see if that's able to be a possibility for Jimmie Ward. But I mean, that's
real quick, Peacock. I think I see K'Wan Williams out there. He has some kind of big cast on his hand.
Yeah,
so
yeah, he used it to punch a ball out this week.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, on the incomplete pass. Yeah, he punched it. Yeah, I saw that.
So unfortunate for Jimmie Ward. I mean, that's just terrible luck. You come off one injury and then you get another one on your first play. That's absurd. So yeah, time to club it up, as BSE says. Got a question here about, let's stay on the defensive side of the ball, and we do have to give out some game balls here. Perry says, I know Huff has been balling, but Mooney Ward is the defensive MVP right now. What do you think? I mean, he made some big plays. There was one catch on him. Nice play by Robbie Anderson to create a little late separation, get his arm in there and push off a little bit. I'm glad they don't call that either. You know, I like to let him play a little bit. It's a savvy veteran move for him. But I mean, from what I've seen from Charvarius Ward, he's been awesome. Everything the 49ers could have hoped for and more.
He plays well, and I think the one thing that I really like to see from cornerbacks are they challenging guys at the catch point, and I think he's consistently doing that. You don't see him just, oh man, why does he keep giving up these underneath passes? Why is he so far away from the receiver? And then obviously like keep getting dogged as well. That's not happening with him. I think he's playing extremely well at the catch point. He's not getting the defensive pass interferences. I think he should have gotten the offensive pass interference called on him. And I see BSC in the chat say OPI. Definitely, man. And who was that? Who was that in the booth that said, oh, yeah, this subtle, what do you call it? Gosh, he used some type of fancy way of saying that a guy didn't push off, even though it's clear. He didn't extend his arm. What? Did not extend his arm. He's fully go gadget arm, fully extended. What is he talking about?
Croc, that was Charles Davis, former DB too.
Charles Davis is tripping. I'm gonna pull his DB card.
Oh no, I agree with Charles Davis. I thought that was smooth the way he did it. I want to let him play a little bit. I don't want him throwing the flag on every defensive player if there's a little touching, little grabbing going on. I don't want him calling it on the offensive guys either. I want to let him play there. I'm okay with that no call. And like they're showing it in slow motion. In real time, it was smooth, Croc. You got to appreciate the smooth little mini push off at the catch point. That's a veteran move, in my opinion. And they tried it again. They tried Travarius again. He's like, nope, not happening. So I love that matchup.
I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty disappointed in you, Peacock.
Oh. Let's see. Do you want to give out some game balls, Croc?
Let's do it.
Okay. First game ball. It's so hard. There's so many. You talk about who's the defensive MVP. Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Emmanuel Mosley's been awesome. Nick Bosa clearly is a candidate. Fred Warner clearly is a candidate. Like there's so many guys playing at that level. That's what's so awesome about this defense. You can't even pick an MVP because there's so many guys on multiple levels playing at a team MVP type of level. So do we just give the game ball again to D'Amico Ryans, who was so jacked up after that pick six, by the way? Actually, I'm going to give my first game ball to Emmanuel Moseley. I hate the injury for him. Not only the pick six, making the play when it's available. We talked about not when the team throws you the ball, you got to make those plays on defense, but some serious vision. I love the return, cutting it back, finding the end zone. It's important. Yeah. What if you get tackled short? Maybe you end up kicking a field goal. You talked about how that scoreboard would look a lot different if he didn't take it all the way to the house. So huge play for Emmanuel Moseley. He's been playing so good for the 49ers. I'm super bummed about that ACL injury for him. He gets my first game ball.
That's going to be tough. And it's always good when you can give a defensive back that, does his thing, the game ball right away. And shout out to Emmanuel Moseley. I hope he, heals up fine. And if I'm not mistaken, he will be a free agent at the end of this year. Maybe restricted, but he's a free agent, I believe. So 49ers have some decisions to make. And I guess in the grand scheme of things, to understand like what you have behind him, I guess you have a long period of time to figure that out. Can a guy like Womack or Diamador Lenore stand up and say, hey, you don't have to bring Moseley back. Let him go in free agency. We'll hold it down with Ward for the next couple of years. So that is unfortunate, but you do get to see what you have with the other guys.
It was always going to be hard. Actually, this makes it probably, as crazy it is to say, this makes it more likely that Moseley can come back, because I think Moseley was just a year behind Charvarius Ward, and looking at that contract and like, you better give me that contract. Undrafted free agent, made good, making plays, starting NFL cornerback. He could have asked for a lot of money. Now, with a torn ACL, that's going to be tough for him. And it might be like the Jason Verrett situation where the 49ers are able to bring him back on another 1-year show-me deal where he goes into his free agency period because of the injury. So I think it's probably more likely that Moseley comes back because of the injury, because I don't think they're going to be able to afford him. And I think clearly with all the corners they drafted, then spending the money on Ward signaled that the 49ers were probably hoping it was going to be something like, what we might see next week if Verrett isn't activated. If it's, Womack on the outside, Lenore in the slot, maybe that's potentially the long-term combination for the 49ers.
Right. I love me some coverage guys. So yeah, the 49ers have plenty of them that where at the very least you see some talent there and you see some upside, and now it's just can it all come together. And again, a really good pass rush definitely helps.
Harry says confirmed torn ACL for Moseley. Not confirmed, but Kyle Shanahan after the game said that it's suspected that that's what it is. Of course, he's going to go through MRI and all those things, and we'll find out exactly what the deal is tomorrow.
They typically know once they start kind of
Yeah.
moving that there's a certain way that your knees. Your knee moves. I learned this in like kinesiology class, but front to back, they can tell if there's like some looseness, and then they can see which ligament it is that is either damaged or not connected. So if they do that little test and they're like, it feels like the ACL, more times than not, they're right. Hopefully they're wrong. Though.
Seen a lot of submissions for game balls in the chat, but here's one, Croc, that we talked about. If he had another good game, it was time to give a little credit to Aaron Banks. And it's funny because going into the season, a couple positions that we were like, I'm not sure. These things could go wrong in these two positions. Was Aaron Banks at left guard. That was one of them. And strong safety with Talanoa Hufanga. And Hufanga's, been awesome. And Aaron Banks has been winning more than he's losing. It's really important for Aaron Banks to play as well as he has and not get his number 65 called very often. Like some minor hiccups here and there. He gave up a pressure. It was Derek Brown late in the game. Who was it? Was it like an instant sack or stuffed the run in the backfield? Like he just didn't block. Oh yeah, it was. They were trying to set up a screen, I think, and he got out in front, but just didn't, chip him or anything. And but overall, Aaron Banks, I just want to give him credit for being somebody that we are super worried about coming in the season. He's played really well over 5 weeks.
And deservedly so. There are a lot of people that have been tagging us, and I know you can't get the tags on Twitter, but are you guys going to talk about Banks? Like, what you going to say now about him? And it's like, nah, dude, like, the worry, I guess you could say, or concern with Aaron Banks, I feel like it was justified. It was a guy, you and I had our evaluation of him coming out of college, that he was not a fit. And the 49ers agreed with us. He didn't play his rookie year at all. For a guy that was a second-round offensive guard, right? Like, those guys play. He didn't play. So he wasn't ready. And that was something where it's like, all right, they are banging on him to be the guy. Let's see. It's still a huge question mark until he proves he can play. And I think so far he has done a really good job of saying, like, yeah, man, like, whatever they needed me to improve on, I have improved on those things. I'm better, and I'm not an issue. And a matter of fact, I think he got called for a penalty in this game, and I looked at his face, and I'm like, I think that's the first time I'm hearing his name called all year.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing when you are playing on that offensive line.
Aaron Banks could walk down the street, and I think half 49ers fans wouldn't even recognize who he is, which is a good thing. That means your number's not getting called a lot, and the camera's not zooming in on your face a lot during games, which is kind of what you want for offensive linemen. But the thing is, Banks was even getting beaten in training camp. And so it was like, I'm surprised. So that's why I want to give him.
Well, I think now we know. I think the 49ers defense is just hella good.
Right. Yeah, that's part of it. That's for sure.
Because that was the thing where, like, Trey Lance, inconsistent. Oh, man, look at his passing numbers aren't great, right? And it's like, well, is he just bad? Is he not developing right? And then come to find out, maybe the defense is just hella good.
So Tevin Coleman getting a lot of nominations here. Harry says Tevin Coleman deserves a game ball, and he was really good in this game. I mean, Jeff Wilson too, right? Jeff Wilson, 120 yards, but I wanted to go to the offensive line first, and I went with Aaron Banks there. You could probably give a few more on the offensive line. There was an insta sack given up where Jalen Moore was beaten very badly off the edge by Brian Burns.
Yeah.
That was to be expected, but it didn't happen a ton, which was really important. So all in all, the 49ers offensive line did really well to open up, holes for Jeff Wilson to go 120 for 7.1. So just the entire running game. Like, I feel like I want to give a game ball to both running backs, to Kyle Shanahan for the game plan, to, all the entire offensive line. I mean, it was all really important to this game.
I see Akshay in the chat, and he says another turf field takes a knee. And I just thought of something when he says that. Jalen Ramsey, he was on uninterrupted. He goes on after games. He's probably going to be really upset after this Cowboy game because they just lost. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys for the W. All right, but he was talking about how they care more about the players' attire and their sock length than they do the health of the players and taking what they say into consideration. And he's like, if you go and pull a locker room, most of the players will tell you, we don't want to play on turf. But the NFL does nothing about it. And he says the turf takes another knee. And that's something that the players are like, well, we don't want to play on turf. And this is something that they just have. So that's hearing Jalen Ramsey say that it was kind of interesting when he said it. I'm like, man, I haven't thought about it that way. And then to see some of these injuries, you understand why.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's certainly something specifically with this one injury could possibly have prevented it too, because this is the exact type of injury where foot gets stuck. There's no give. You roll with the receiver and it gets caught. If it's grass, does that pull up a little bit? Just enough give to where you don't tear your ACL. So good call by Akshay on that. I didn't even think about it being turf that they were playing on. They got to do something about that. 2022, man. You're throwing out there playing on these rugs, getting people hurt. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. Any more game balls for you, Croc?
Am I allowed to give one to Jimmy Garoppolo? I feel like I'll always give one to Jimmy G. But listen, okay, so I have to explain myself real quick, y'all. The reason why I always give one to Jimmy Garoppolo, I think my bar is very low for him. So if he just does the bare minimum of not just screwing up the game, which in this game he did not, and I thought he made some good throws. He pushed the ball downfield. There was 0 turnovers. He hit somebody in the chest. The guy dropped it. Look, you're gonna get that. you're gonna get that right from him. But again, the bar is low. But when he has one of those games, that just helps the 49ers win. And there was a little improvising there, and you saw him running for a touchdown. They got called back, but I thought he did some really good things. So I think he definitely deserves a game ball. I think you got to give him one, right? People call me out for that, for giving him game balls.
Adam says, LOL, Jimmy was Jimmy.
I think, well, yeah, Jimmy is Jimmy. We know we're going to see that, but when he pushes the ball down the field, when he doesn't turn the ball over, I think we got to give Jimmy a pound. Good job, Jimbo. I think I'm going to start calling him Jimbo. When he doesn't turn the ball over, I'm calling him Jimbo.
You don't think the Carolina Panthers or most weeks the New York Giants or the New York Jets or the Pittsburgh Steelers or any of these teams with garbage quarterback play would love what Jimmy Garoppolo did this week?
We might have to take the Jets off that list because Zach Wilson, I don't know, he's kind of creeping along. We'll see if he can stack these games together. But I watched Zach Wilson today. I watch him. I watch all the guys. I know a lot of people just focus on 49ers. I watch all these teams. I got multiple screens on at one time. I'm watching all this stuff. And I watch a lot of Justin Fields today. I'm watching all these young guys and seeing how they're doing.
Yeah, I thought there were some great throws from Jimmy he did today. He definitely deserves a game ball and just a great team win overall. But really, that 49ers defense is just powerhouse. And when the 49ers offense is making holes for the running game and they're efficient, not turning the ball over, it's game over for teams like the Carolina Panthers who just can't match up. And so if 49ers keep playing like that, that's a really good sign. The Niners now at the top of the NFC West where they belong. How long can they stay there? Got some big opponents coming up. And of course, Croc and I will have you guys covered every step of the way with your San Francisco 49ers. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen. Make sure you're tuning in to Croc doing Locked On NFL Draft every day here on the network. I'm hosting Peacock and Williamson, talking about the entire league with co-host Matt Williamson, former NFL scout, former ESPN scribe. We break it all down every single week for every team and the entire league. And of course, Croc and I will be right back here with you guys tomorrow. Locked On 49ers.